this news poll on the front page of The Australian, it's an exclusive by Simon Benson, the National Affairs editor, finds that meeting climate change targets has for the first time emerged as an issue, but more importantly, most Australians have found that the main cause of severity of the recent bushfires, or most Australians believe rather, is not in fact climate change but a failure to conduct adequate hazard reduction. Colour me surprised, Cam Newman. We're all a bit sensible.
Look, I'm not surprised by the poll for a couple of reasons. Firstly, clearly there has been a bit of a shift in community attitudes, and that's what the poll's showing in terms of climate change versus power prices. That's understandable given the bombarding of the populace by the media over the summer. But in terms of the actual sanity and sensible thinking of the Australian community, I think that's been reinforced by this, where they actually get it, that hazard reduction burning, or the lack thereof, has been a major factor in these fires, with only 35% saying that it's due to sort of the climate change issue itself.
Gideon, I just want to come to you in Victoria, because I believe my understanding is that the lack of hazard reduction has been particularly bad in Victoria, particularly the findings, the Royal Commission after the Black Saturday fires. My understanding is a large number of those recommendations, specifically in relation to hazard reduction burns, were not followed. This shouldn't come as a surprise. We shouldn't need a poll to point it out. But when it comes to the I hate using the phrase, but culture wars, this just goes to show, well, I really do, because I didn't know we were in a culture war, but apparently we are. This just goes to show most Australians are pretty sensible, and they can tell what's what.
They can tell what's what. They know that Australia's 1.3% of global emissions, even if you are the most inclined to believe the worst of climate alarmism, doesn't make a difference in the scheme of things, and certainly doesn't directly cause bushfires. This doesn't surprise me though, Gemma, this result, because I remember around the time of the fires, and this is my fault for spending too long on the damn Twitter, that everything was climate, the country's on fire, climate emergency, something has to be done about the climate. I thought, oh well, that's wind in their sails, I suppose. We'll be hearing about climate from here until eternity. But then when you talk to taxi drivers, or the bloke who cuts my hair, or people in cafes or anything else, they were talking in very, very detailed terms about fire breaks, about hazard reduction and so on. They weren't talking about climate at all. So I think this opportunistic use of these bushfires by climate alarmists not only has failed to convince people, but I think it's turned a lot of people off the broader cause.
Well, I think I have been of that view for a little while, Erin, in terms of the discussion around the environment, and I deliberately use the word environment rather than climate because it is broader than just that. That discussion needs to be truly inclusive, and the problem that we face now is that mainstream Australia is simply turning off because they feel excluded, and they're told that they're morons, or, shun the unbeliever, you name it, if they dare to ask a question, or a person dares to ask a question. And before I come to your comments, I just want to read a quick couple of lines from the Department of Fire and Emergency Services website here in Western Australia, where we do prescribed burning, and in my view do it very well. Prescribed burning helps maintain biodiversity and assists with vegetation management. Many of WA's prescribed burns are managed by the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions, and they generally take place in the cooler months. Now, this is a bit of a prescribed burning for dummies, if you like, Erin. The point of the matter is it's not mutually exclusive with conservation outcomes. This is surely the rest of the country should be looking to the Wild West for a little bit of guidance on this.
I don't disagree with you at all, Gemma. From the conversations I had with people in Victoria, particularly out in the hills areas, was that the time frame for them to be able to do these controlled burn-offs were shortened, which just had such a big impact for them, because that time frame just was pulled back so much more. So of course, come and look at Western Australia,
and look at what we're doing here.
Not just quokka selfies at Rottnest Island, but they are a lot of fun.
But truly, and just referring to this DFS website in Western Australia again, it also outlines how private landowners and landholders can do their own prescribed burns within the allotted months. And this poll is important although it might feel like it needs to be a bit redundant, it is important because it just goes to show that the shouting, and it is shouting, the shouting from the zealots who would say it is only climate policy that caused these the ferocity of the fires, it just goes to show that that is absolutely not getting traction. And to my mind, that is great for the wider conversation.